Alright guys, welcome to my Admiral Copperbeard monster review. I believe he is the first Legends Pass monster of the Galactic era, but he is free right now for breeding, so hopefully you get him. He is a pretty amazing pick from what I remember, but that's what this review is for. We're both going to find out together whether he's worth it or not. He does have an Era Saga with a very powerful talent, so keep that in mind. You are definitely going to get an Era Saga out of this monster, so that might pay for any price of breeding him. So, and amazing elements, oh my goodness. And for an artifact, oh, I might have to use this monster a lot. So, he's a Galactic Era water and metal artifact attacker. Captain Copperbeard was struggling to keep his spaceship afloat and his crew happy after years without a proper treasure. That was until he found Astronite, a new resource that not only made him into Admiral Copperbeard, it was also set to make him rich, because he's the only one who knows where to find it. Alright, so he discovered the Astronite that kicked off the Galactic Era, which might have been a really bad era, but the story was fire, so I'll give him that. His finisher, Cannon Symphony, deals moderate meta damage to all enemies, applies Mega Stun to all enemies, activates cooldowns on all enemies. Okay, whoa, hold on. I'm a bit confused. Activates all cooldowns? I think, okay. So, cooldown activation. The wording was a bit wacky, so it really threw me off. And applies shock. So, that is a double denial, almost triple, because, shock is a very powerful dot because it blocks extra turns, when extra turns is one of the most popular mechanics still in the game. So that is a pretty great finisher. It's almost a triple denial with moderate metal. And as we all know, the meta is getting pretty brave. They just use light monsters without any taunt. And when they do that, a metal monster like this, especially a metal water monster, when we're fighting in a light fire pierce meta, ooh, this guy wrecks. So at rank 0, he gets his highest usability already, right off the bat. Artifact. So he's immune to all status effects. Artifacts are not alive, immune to all status effects. That's pretty awesome. So no dots, no buffing, nothing can land on him, which I think is pretty great, because if you just give him good runes, he is still just going to tear through any and all light fire monsters, any light monsters, which there are a lot of very, very powerful light and fire monsters. They kind of rule the meta right now. And then the monsters who aren't light and fire, like Uriel and Galvanus, like Voltaic, they're still light monsters. So this guy definitely has the elemental advantage. That is so great. He reminds me a lot of Hydrorian. So he's an artifact. He's immune to all the dots, possessions, denials they could throw at you. But that also means he won't get any regeneration, stamina regeneration. He won't get triple damage. It's really you have to he cuts himself off completely. But with his amazing elements, I think it makes up for not being able to buff when he already has such great damage output against them. Then you have Super Attuned. This is pretty great. I've heard that he's kind of like Tubercon, where you can reactivate your cooldowns, right? So basically, no, restore cooldowns on your allies, so give you your best moves back while giving you some stamina. So the fact that he's super attuned means when he does do something like that, he'll get more stamina, and then he'll have more stamina to attack with later. And the final one, I'm not too sure about. I heard he was kind of like one of those attackers with not that many dots. He has precision, so it'll help his dots land whatever they are. If they're good enough, I couldn't say. We're about to find out. And look at this! Oh my god! And every single monster review these days, the second I hatch the monster, I complete so many books. Alright, so let's feed this little guy up to level 100, and let's see what his moves are. I gotta say, I feel like he's playing on easy mode. His strength is just, no. Well, his strength is pretty high, right? That's a pretty great facet. But, his elements are so perfect for the meta that he just instantly gets his shot. So I definitely think this is going to be an amazing war pick. Because, you see a Cherub Cupid, you just run this guy as a kind of tanky fella, and he'll destroy it. A tanky attacker is what I think you're going to use this monster as. So, Andromeda's Cutlass. Deals moderate metal damage to one enemy, applies bleed. So 0 cooldown, 20 stamina, metal attack with bleed. Since it has a dot and it's on 0 cooldown, it's not that much, but against light monsters it'll do pretty good. Maybe you run this move. We got to see his other moves, because if a monster like this, when he restores cooldowns, 0 cooldown moves aren't really as prevalent, because you can restore it. So Astorum Lick, Ew. I don't know, but that just sounds nasty. Removes all tortures off one ally. Alright, so an ally cleanse, 0 stamina, 0 cooldown. I really don't think that's worth it. Buccaneer Blade, the moderate metal AoE, pretty powerful. Looks like a 35 AoE. That might be pretty powerful, but I think he's got higher AoEs, so don't run this one. But 1 turn cooldown, 35 stamina, it's a pretty hefty attack. Privateer's Peak, so yeah, he does a lot of restoring cooldowns on his allies. This is amazing. Applies Electrified to all enemies, restores all cooldowns on all allies. So this is just a good dot to AoE status caster, and Electrified finally has a decent use in being a shutdown for light Voltaic, because he can apply dodge area, but it's actually pretty good when he does it. So if you can get this Electrified on him beforehand, actually completely forget about that. He's immune to Electrified. What a weird thing to be immune to. Alright. But either way, it's a pretty good dot. And then it restores all cooldowns on allies. So all of your allies can do their most powerful attacks. It's especially good for him himself, because he's your attacker. Of course you want his cooldowns to be easily refreshed. Jesus Christ, so much cooldown. Oh, and this is especially good because when he restores the allies cooldown and his own cooldown, he kind of makes up for his very high stamina cost. So Crosier Charge deals moderate metal damage to one enemy, applies Electrified to one enemy, restores cooldown on itself. So metal damage attack, then applies Electrified, then restores the cooldown. I'll have to check it out if this cooldown, if like when he restores his own cooldown, if it triggers super attune, then he's gonna be very well off, because stamina is really his biggest problem here. He almost chain restores cooldowns, so he's insane in that matter. But his stamina is very high cost for, it makes sense. He's a robot, of course. Robots need a lot of power. But as for this move, maybe you run it because, of course you're fighting light monsters, but you really shouldn't need to rely on that excuse too often. It's pretty low damage output comparatively, but you restore cooldown and you give a decent dot. We'll have to see if he has better singles. Vitamin Cocktail gives 30% of stamina to all allies, so he does have a stamina move, and removes tortures off all allies. I gotta say, I hate any move that removes tortures. Like, I hate the hyper specialized removals and the hyper specialized trait disables, like trample. Which you guys probably don't know what that is. It's a future mechanic coming out where it's basically certain monsters will just disable one trait instead of trait disable. They're kind of trying to weaken stuff like that. Like trait disable, pierce, they're so powerful that they're trying to be like, okay, and negative effect removal, that they're like, okay, let's make it so that it only removes tortures, or let's make it, instead of pierce, give them cold blood so that they're not as powerful. Which I love the balancing, but it works out so poorly. So I don't think you're gonna run this move at all. After all, you have a million cleansing moves. No, you have a million cooldown restoring moves. You should. Oh, but that's the thing. He doesn't really work out with any other support monsters, because support monsters usually you heal, you give regeneration, you give buffs, but he can't take any of that unless it's a bulk heal. So definitely not going to run that. Boarding Hook deals moderate metal damage to one enemy, then to all. All right. So this is your single then AoE. It's a very popular type of move. All right. So this is going to be your strongest single attack, because you do it to one, then to all. So it'll be pretty hefty damage. I'm guessing it's 25 to one, then 25 to all. So 50 single AoE. And then applies Electrified. Electrified seems to be his favorite dot. Pretty powerful. But yeah, as I'm saying, he doesn't really have very high single damage output, which when you only have decent single damage output and great AoE damage output, kind of like Cherub Cupid, it's really iffy on if you're going to make it in the meta. But okay, so very strong metal attack, then electrified AoE. Of course, the stamina is still extremely high. 3-turn cooldown is pretty hefty. But, the cooldown is the last thing this monster worries about, because Buccaneer Low Blow. Alright, finally, a decent single output move. Deals moderate metal damage to one enemy, applies bleed to one enemy, restores all cooldowns on all allies. So this is going to be the attack you use to, single target kill any metal monsters, any light monsters. And then, you do the single attack, they die, you apply bleed, and then you restore all cooldowns. So you could kind of spam this move If the restoring cooldowns does trigger his super attuned, then that's also going to be another advantage for him. So as for his best skill set, I think I'm going to have to go just moderate to 1. Yeah, you definitely need that other, single. You definitely need 3 singles. It feels kind of obsessive, so you're going to need an AoE too. Buccaneer Blade looks to be the AoE that you're going to use. Yeah, for sure. So I've got to say, this monster is very, very iffy. He kind of over relies on this restores all cooldowns mechanic when there's not too many monsters who desperately need their cooldowns restored. Like, yeah, high stamina cost, sure, but there's not a lot of high cooldown cost in the meta that you really want restored every time your attacker attacks. Let's see. His metal damage output is great, but it kind of cheats you out of him being metal and water because his water moves are only support moves when you really wanted him to have some water attack moves. So let's see. He's got 2 good dots, Electrified and Bleed. So one reduces damage output, one blocks dodge area. The dodging block it... I just completely messed that up. The blocking dodge area, a bit iffy. But his metal damage output is so amazing. I think he's going to have a spot in the meta and a pretty good war pick, really. I mean, his elements just dominate the other ones. And Buccaneer Blade, he's just his strongest AoE. Yeah, I definitely want to see this guy in battle. He's definitely one of my few... Oh my god, I'm really... Ooh, bleeding gems right now. He's definitely a rainbow build. So, do I want to go level 7 or 5, though? I'll go level 7, Alright, level 7. Give you a level 5 or 7, 5 or 7, 5 or 7. I'll give you 2 level 5s, or 1 level 5 and 1 speed. So this guy is definitely a rainbow build. A very powerful attacker. I can't really showcase him in PvP because at level 100, a rainbow build is not going to do that much damage. So I'm going to just showcase him in the Galactic Rank Up Survival Dungeon. Finally, I have 3 good picks in this thing. Although, they're only really attackers. So Urchinian, I'm just going to use my, whatever the material for this thing was, Astronite. I'm looking at the guy who discovered Astronite, and his trait, ooh, I always love it when attackers can also do stamina. So actually, this really works out. Because, as I said, his one biggest flaw was his ridiculously high stamina cost. So you can give him a Mr. Beast banner, and you kind of solve that problem for him. So he can run a stamina banner. I think I'm going to give him Royal Magnus just because it's the only one that I don't really use too often. And then for a sword, of course, you're going to go damage output sword. This guy's biggest deal is that he's going to fight all of your light and fire monsters with his amazing elements, and he's not going to take any dots. He's not going to take any denial, but he also can't accept any buffing. So you definitely want something like that sword. No, you definitely want something like Laser Beam Sword or one of the many damage buffing relics from the Galactic era, because he can't really increase his damage output with Omnia or with the Light Hater like you're used to. So you definitely need that extra kick of relics, especially for him to survive in the modern day climate. So look, I want to showcase something to you. So let's say, oh no, but these guys are so bad to showcase what I want to show, because he has a 0 cooldown Infinite X Return move, and he has 2 1-0 cooldown, 1-0 stamina, very insanely strong attacks. So this team is kind of hard to showcase his stamina, no, his cooldown reactivation. So I'm gonna do this one. So here, so if I do Buccaneer Longbow, and let's say let's say 1 monster, because there's no way someone's gonna cooldown activate 1 monster and not all of them. Let's say Kanekro had a 0 cooldown, or I just wanted to spam the Buccaneer Low Blow because it's his strongest single attack. Boom, I do Buccaneer Low Blow. And when it comes back around to him, he doesn't have any debuffs, he doesn't have any denial, he doesn't have any soft denial. Boom, I can just do Buccaneer Low Blow and take him out again. Or I can do his Boarding Hook, which is a moderate to 1, moderate to all. So look, I see 2 enemies, and let's say, because this guy is also an artifact, he has more health. Then look, you would do the 2 moves. So I did damage twice to the Megalobot, and then it still did a residual AoE, so it did some damage to the other allies. I think he's pretty great. I think he's pretty great as just like a tanky artifact attacker. I think his cooldown restoring mechanic is kind of weird, but it also is pretty nice. Because like let's say you wanted to do your AoE, but you couldn't. You would just restore your cooldown. Let's say you had an Omnia and she had dots on her, so she needed to do her turn transfer move first. You would restore cooldowns. Like there's a lot of viability to restoring cooldowns, and there's not many monsters who can do it effectively. So just slapping it on an attacker like Copperbeard who can, deal with himself. He doesn't really need to be cleansed off of. You can't buff him anyway, so you really don't have to worry about him. Is really great. I think actually the best sword for him would be Kane's sword because it lets him heal. And a tank who can heal, an artifact monster who can heal, is an artifact monster who can survive a crazy long time. I think he's a great war pick. I'm definitely going to rank him up. He's got his own era saga, so you're definitely going to get good rewards just for having him. And yeah, I think he's an amazing monster, so definitely try and get him. If you already have him, he's a great war pick. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like on the video. I love making this kind of content, and I really enjoy it. It goes a long way, and it pushes my channel in the algorithm, which really has been happening lately. So thank you all so much for that. Leave a comment and your thoughts down below. Is he a good monster? Do you think he's any good? Is he worth it? Is his high stamina like too much? What do you think on this monster? There's a lot to like and a lot to dislike. I really wish he had some water output though. And yeah, subscribe to join the Crab Army. We are at 198 subscribers. We are this close to 200 subscribers, man. I still can't believe it. It's amazing, and it means the world to me that we've grown this far. But just watching the video this far means a lot. That's all the support I could ever need. So thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you found it helpful. I hope to see you in the next one. Hope you have an amazing day. This is the Omni-Crab signing out. See you in the next one.